Good morning, world. This is the Propaganda Critic. Today is Sunday, December 3rd, 2017, and today we're going to talk about a campaign by the U.S. State Department to essentially propagandize the Hungarian people. And this is consistent with a lot of the Soros globalist-like activity that's been going on. We've seen it in Macedonia, where Soros' Central European University had a part in overthrowing the Macedonian government. So, anyways, we'll get into that. Let's get started. So the U.S. State Department has announced an opportunity that they're providing to compete for the privilege to help them, quote, increase citizens' access to objective information about domestic and global issues in Hungary. Well, that sounds nice. But is that really what it's all about? I think I'm going to call bullshit on this one. So to really figure out what's going on, all it takes is a quick internet search to discover the real issue. A September 6, 2017 article from the establishment lapdog New York Times reveals the true motive. This article is entitled, quote, "Leaders of Hungary and Poland chafe at EU, but how do their people feel?" So before I continue, let's notice right off the bat the propaganda techniques that are used in the title. They have the argument ad populum fallacy, which is the appeal to widespread belief, and an appeal to emotion. How do they feel? Also, it's clear that the U.S. State Department is pushing the European Union agenda of consolidating European governance and dissolving any remaining vestiges of state sovereignty on the continent. They're targeting the holdovers, and the U.S. State Department is revealing its complicity in this campaign. So do you really think the U.S. is getting permission from Hungary to spread this propaganda? I think not. So let's take a look at the details and the nuance of this, quote, notice of funding opportunity, or NOFO. While the initial premise of this NOFO is to, quote, increase citizens' access to objective information, unquote. 2 paragraphs down into this, the State Department says, quote, projects should aim to have impact that leads to democratic reforms and should have the potential for sustainability beyond DRL resources. What is DRL? DRL, I should have written this down just a sec. DRL means the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. Oh, that sounds really nice. What a nice title. So, anyway, let's start this quote over. Projects should aim to have impact that leads to democratic reforms and should have the potential for sustainability beyond DRL resources. DRL's preference is to avoid duplicating past efforts by supporting new and creative approaches. This does not exclude from consideration projects that improve upon or expand existing successful projects in a new and complementary way. So, this isn't about objective information at all, obviously. It's about regime change. Do we recall, as I said earlier, Macedonia and the use of George Soros' Central European University, which ultimately precipitated the overthrow of the Macedonian government? Do not be fooled. This is no different. The United States government is pushing to overthrow the government of a sovereign European nation. Now, that's slight speculation. I don't actually have concrete evidence to support this claim, but we see in the past with George Soros and the Central European University that this has happened before. And we notice that those countries which are resisting this European Union globalist agenda are the targets of this campaign. So also, in that prior statement, they made it clear that this is not just a one-off funding opportunity. This is a strategic long-term plan. Consider the fact they said they want to avoid duplication of effort. They want to build on prior efforts. This is a long-term campaign. Another disconcerting part about this is the caveat that they place that after this competition and after they determine who receives funding, they leave open the option for a, quote, non-competitive continuation amendment for up to 5 years. And these non-competitive campaign aspects include things such as the provision of humanitarian assistance, English language instruction, development of high-tech computer or communication software and hardware, purely academic exchanges and fellowships, just like with the Central European University, external exchanges or fellows lasting longer than 6 months, offshore activities that are not clearly linked to in-country initiatives, and impact are not necessarily for security concerns. Theoretical explorations of human rights and democracy issues, including projects aimed primarily at research and evaluation that do not incorporate training or capacity building for local civil society. Microloans or similar small business development initiatives, and initiatives directed toward a diaspora community rather than current residents of targeted countries. So this leaves open an expansive regional influence campaign. So the State Department also makes clear that it is not merely a grant, but may include a, quote, cooperative agreement with the U.S. government in which they are substantially involved, saying, quote, cooperative agreements require federal government participation in the project. If a cooperative agreement is awarded, DRL will undertake reasonable and programmatically necessary substantial involvement. Examples of substantial involvement can include, but are not limited to, 1. Active participation or collaboration with the recipient in the implementation of the award. 2. Review and approval of one stage of work before another can begin. 3. Review and approval of substantive provisions of proposed sub-awards or contracts. So it's not just the one award. This is a continuing contract that they're proposing. 4. Approval of the recipient's budget or plan of work prior to the award. Some other disturbing aspects of this proposal include the State Department's willingness through this agreement to, quote, provide assistance to foreign security forces or personnel. So this may involve military aid. Maybe perhaps the overthrow of a government? I'll leave that up to you to decide. Also, they stipulate that the project must have a, quote, multiplier effect and be sustainable beyond the life of the grant. They say, quote, a good multiplier effect will have an impact beyond the direct beneficiaries of the grant, e.g. participants, for example, participants trained under a grant go on to train other people. Workshop participants use skills from a workshop to enhance a national level election that affects the entire populace. Oh no, this is just an example. They're not actually wanting to influence elections. No, of course not. A strong sustainability plan may include demonstrating continuing impact beyond the life of a project or garnering other donor support after DRL funding ceases. So the project evaluation process includes making sure the activities comport with USAID missions as well. So the U.S. State Department, USAID, has been involved in the Green Revolution in the 1960s. They're involved in the global warming hysteria and the push for green energy. And this is, if you look back on a previous video I made about Clinton and Rockefeller coordinating with the State Department, you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. So this statement by the U.S. State Department ends with the following revealing propagandistic statement. Quote, DRL has the mission of promoting democracy and protecting human rights globally. DRL supports projects that uphold democratic principles, support and strengthen democratic institutions, promote human rights, prevent atrocities, combat and prevent violent extremism, unless it's the U.S. government, and builds civil society around the world. DRL typically focuses its work in countries with egregious human rights violations, where democracy and human rights advocates are under pressure, and where governments are undemocratic or in transition. I know that's a lot to chew on. Please let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. I look forward to your comments, discussion. It is time that the people now is the time for us to step up and say no more to these blatant, unconstitutional actions by our federal government, and which are ultimately damaging to the security and the liberty of the American people. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and donate. I really need your help to grow this channel and to hold those in power accountable for their tyranny. So thanks again, and have a great day.